So this is for education, entertainment, and bullshit purposes only. Let's hear what Maurice Suleiman is saying with the WBC sanctioning body and what he has stored in the future for Errol Spence. Yeah.
The great fights that we have seen, rather than only stick to one fight that did not took place and get angry at a sport where there's so many variables. TV networks, promoters, managers, attorneys, then you don't know what the fighter's opinion is and what they demand or what happens that a negotiation is broken. Sometimes the ego gets into play. Sometimes too much, how do you say, when you want everything for yourself?
Yeah, greed.
Greed sometimes makes things just go south.
Right. Yeah, I know that, it's kind of out of your control here because I think that Spence has to deal with another mandatory before he deals with the WBC mandatory. But am I mistaken? Isn't Boots Ennis your number one contender?
No, the WBC's mandatory is next. That has been confirmed. Thurman is a number one contender, but everything will be seen at the convention.
Oh, okay, that's going to be finalized at the convention?
Yeah, I believe Ennis is the IBF or...
You're right. I'm sorry, that's my mistake.
It's the IBF mandatory.
Yeah, okay, great. Yeah, we'll just see how that plays out. That will be obviously a newsworthy event.
All right, so you got the IBF, you got the WBA, and you got the WBC. They got their hands out trying to get to Errol Spence. Before the WBC, Maurice Suleiman said anything, it was between the WBA and the IBF. And, like I said, there's Crawford fans and Errol Spence fans, and they have arguments. And, on my side, as a Crawford fan, I felt like Boots should be the one to get the opportunity to fight Errol Spence. That's one. If you listen to the Errol Spence fans, you will hear that the WBA, Mendoza, it's a title eliminator. They pay step aside of money already. And they also, the argument is that on the IBF side, right, that Boots Ennis and his father petitioned just recently. So since things are going this way with the WBA and that they pay Al Heyman, pay step aside money, they should be first in line. So I'm understanding where the Spence fans is coming from, where they feel like this sanction body should be first in line before the IBF, because the IBF, Boozy Ennis and Boots Ennis, they just petitioned to the IBF to be the mandatory. Right. So before Suleiman from the WBC raised his head out of nowhere, right, and saying that, and then I'm listening to that, and he's saying something about, because the reporter was kind of cool. I like how he did that. He's like, aren't you with Boots Ennis and he's the mandatory? And he's like, no, that's what Marisa, that's what the IBF. And I would have done a question like that too, because I wanted to come out and say the IBF has a mandatory and is I would have act like stupid and be like, yeah, aren't you the one with the not the IBF? Aren't you the one with Boots Ennis with the mandatory? And then of course he's gonna follow through and say, no, that's IBF. And he also said, if you look back and listen to that, he said something about contender. Keith Thurman is a contender, and then he have to figure it out and said IBF is a mandatory, right? The mandatory is IBF, right? And it was a title eliminator, right? With Custer Clayton and Boots Ennis to make him the IBF mandatory. You get what I'm saying? This is not, I'm not coming up with this shit. Let me give you a real quick clip so you understand that it's not what I feel like is right. It is what it is. Video and people say, well, we're not sure if this is true or not. Is he ranked 1 or is he a mandatory? I said, listen, Boxing News 24/7, all right? So this is one of the channels, one of the sites I went to look for information. There's plenty more sites, and they're all saying the same thing. Jerome Boots Ennis, 2012 Olympian Custer Clayton, has agreed to meet in an IBF ordered welterweight title eliminator bout in the spring, right? Ennis and Custer fight winner will be the mandatory challenger for the April 16 victory between IBF WBC champion Errol Spence Jr. and WBA champion Jordanis Ugas. Okay? So yeah, I look back. Nah, nigga. Yeah, I look back. He said number 1 contender is Keith Thurman for the WBC, right? So and you see, this is the argument that y'all been talking about with the Spence fans was that the WBA comes first in Mendoza because, it's all about the in-house of the WBA. They created all these titles, right? And they trying to consolidate, right? And they're doing it on account that, on the 147 division, and they want to clean up the sport with all these belts, blah, blah, blah. They created something in the in-house that they want to do it on the backs of Ugas, Spence, Crawford, whatever, and they want to clean up so bad. Go to another division. Go over there with Devin Haney and Tank Davis. Why don't you go do that? Okay, go over there, because he has a belt right under Devin Haney. Go and deal with that, all right? But it's not going to work that way. Instead, they're so worried about this division and so much stress coming from uno, dos, and tres that how do we know who's what? And they said, and this is what Maurice Suleiman said in that clip. You could go back. It's not what I say. It's what he said. He said when they get to the convention, then they're going to figure out who gets money under the table. Allegedly will get their piece of the cut under the table, allegedly, to figure out who's going to be next in line. And that's the way I see it. Because, the NBA, National Boxing Association, turned into the WBA, right? And then they was corrupt at one time. So then they had to make the WBC to overcome the corruption over there. The WC ended up becoming corrupt. I'm putting them in order, right? So then this man that was from the WBA, he branched off, Robbie Lee, and made the IBF, the International Boxing Federation, right? Then he got caught with tax evasion and blah, 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 and blah, blah, blah. So you got uno corrupt, dos corrupt, tres corrupt, and the last is the WBO that came in last, right? So if we want to go in order, and you want to play this order game, and you want to say, well, the WBA comes first because they was born first. Hey, if you want to play these games, Spence fans, the Errol-sexuals, not the Spence fans, but the Errol-sexuals, if you want to play these games and say what sanction body was built first, well, they come first. But, see, what's going to happen is, with Errol Spence is this. Now, just recently, he was getting recorded on the phone, and this is a hot topic now, for the casuals, if they don't know, that he was talking a lot on this recording, and he doesn't know who it is or whatever. And he also said, now I don't know when that recording was past or future, right? So I'm not going to assume it's the future. I'm just going to say it's a recording of him saying he doesn't want to fight Keith Thurman. And we all know in the boxing community that he does not want to fight Keith Thurman. He always said he do not want to fight Keith Thurman. So the way I see it, it's a machine against the boxer. So let me remind you what Crawford stated out and pulled out of this man over here to let you hear and say, can you repeat that? Can you repeat that? Yeah.
Bob said, it's the fighters. It's always the fighters. When they ask for something and it's a fight that can be made, we're going to go do it. We've worked with the Top Rank, many times in the past, and it seems like the relationship's just been getting better and better. And I'm looking forward to tonight. It's been a great event, great promotion, and obviously November 20th we're going right back into it again. So it's worked very well together. Thank you.
Hold up. Time out. Can you reverse what you just said a few minutes ago? It's the what? The fighters that makes the fight, that wants the fight, you go get the fight.
That's right. I know where you're gonna go with this.
All right. I just want y'all to hear.
I don't know where you're going. No.
But
it's a new day.
It's definitely
a new day.
It's definitely a new day, but I just wanted y'all to hear that on camera. So y'all know that Terrence Crawford has been stale in the fights. All the fights that y'all been on this year. I just want y'all to know that. Live and direct.
It's a new day. It's a new day. Yeah. This dude, Bob Arum, in the background saying it's a new day. Like he's defending Tom Brown. But, like Tom Brown say, our communication and, PBC and Top Rank. It's a new day, and we getting better and better and making fights. This is when they ordered for Sean Porter and Terrence Crawford to fight. It was ordered. Okay, it was an order and it happened, right? So most fights get ordered and it don't happen. But I'm just saying, it got ordered. This is what the Spence fans wanted. They wanted to see him fight Sean Porter. That's what they got. They weren't satisfied with it, but that's what they got, right? So as Crawford is pointing out to Tom Brown, that's on Al Heyman's side, TG over there, and explain to you. Wait, can I hear that again? And he explains that it's the boxers, is what the boxers want, and whatever the boxers want, we're going to give them. This is what Tom Brown said. So I'm asking you now, because we all know something that Maurice Suleiman and Al Heyman and PBC, they got two things in common. What do they have in common, Errol Spence fans? No, not Errol. Aerosexuals. Come on, let me hear it. Come on. Come a little closer. Tell me what they got in common. You can't answer this shit? Well, the both things they got in common is that they both want him to fight Keith Thurman. And what's the common denominator? What's the one that don't want to fight Keith Thurman? I have to do this step by step because y'all babies. You look like y'all taking steps because y'all into your feelings. Wang, wang, wang. What do Errol Spence, your boxer, want? What do he don't want? He do not want to fight Keith Thurman. That's the end of discussion. All right? He don't, and you know this. So you could go around, think, you constipated with thoughts, thinking, trying to move things around and try to come up with something, right? It is what it is. So now if I see this man, when Maurice Suleiman Mendoza and the president of the IBF, they in this convention, and I'm trying to figure out who's going to get the money under the table, allegedly, from the promoters, or whatever, allegedly. Now, if I see it's Keith Thurman, well, guess what? This argument that Spence fans have about, oh man, how would they pay Stanionis step-aside money again? Well, that's what I'll know reading between the lines. Because if they give this fight to Keith Thurman, well, they also, the Al Heyman and them, had to pay to do that. And they had to pay Stanionis step-aside of money. Remember? Stanionis got step aside so Ugas could fight Spence for the WBA title. So if I see Keith Thurman fighting Errol Spence, which Errol Spence don't want to fight, it's a machine against the boxing. Who gonna win? Who gonna win, man? Who the boss? Don't get this nigga in my head again. Who's the boss? All right, so now we get our answers reading in between the lines. You have to pay this man step-aside money twice, Stanionis, right? And what about the IBF? Talk to me, man. Talk to me. What about the IBF? What's going on with them? Because, we always say they strict. They don't play. They've been quiet. And the way I see it, if you, like you said, like earlier, I said something about putting the sanction bodies in line. I come from the NBA, they went to the national, then they did the WBA, then you got you got them all in line. If you want to play these games, right? But who hasn't upheld their mandatory with the IBF? Wait a minute, besides that, if y'all want to play this in line shit, who won what belt first? Who won what belt first? Errol Spence beat Kell Brook for the IBF. That was his first belt. First belt. He fought Ocampo. Now, in between Ocampo, the accident, he fighting for titles and stuff like that, blah, 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 blah. And Boots was nowhere around at that time, right? But it doesn't matter who was there. It doesn't matter who was there or not. Right now, there's a mandatory that got to be withheld, and that's with the IBF. Because at the end of the day, the petition goes in. When they go to this convention, see, before the convention, the petition went in. Yeah, the petition went in. Before they go to this convention, and they're going to figure out who going to pay the most. I mean, allegedly, which sanction body's going to get it. They going to get something. Somebody going to get something. All right, this ain't nothing new. Matter of fact, wait a minute. The WBA this year recently got sued. Yeah, if I can remember, the WBA got sued for something about this guy was paying under the table, allegedly, everything's allegedly, to get certain fighters on the rankings higher. The boxing community, do you remember that? All right. So, we don't know what's going to happen, right? Because this is not 2 years ago. This is this year. We heard about the WBA and the conflicting news with all this foolishness about rankings and paying under the table to get certain fighters there and all this. So we're not new to this. We're not new to this. And the WBA is not new to this. And they got recent news on this already. So that's one with that. IBF, they strict. They're supposed to get, when it's time to do this and do that, they're supposed to do it. Now you got the WBC. Number one contender, Keith Thurman. And like I said, if this man, the only thing I need to see this man do, and guess what? If Spence goes up, if Spence moves up, do I think that he should go back down to fight Terrence Crawford? Because I'm just going to say, just like the excuse that Terrence Crawford fans use, like such as myself, if next year this fight happens, see, I already canceled this fight because they had enough time negotiated. They had 6-7 months to negotiate this fight, right? And I'm still not hearing anything about, because if you're going to announce a fight, you got to announce it this year for next year. If it's in January, February, or March. If you're gonna announce it November or December. So I'm waiting for that too. Because I'm not getting an announcement for January, for February. I told you I don't do 1 month announcements, right? I want 8 weeks of testing. 8 weeks, right? So, and I'm going to tell you right now, like I said, I got Twitter just to get the alerts on the boxers and the foolishness they say, going back and forth. But I also got Margaret Goodman on VADA. So when I hear somebody like Eddie Hearn tell me that Clarissa Shields didn't get tested for VADA, I could go, you're lying. You're lying. Because my alert comes up and it said, Margaret Goodman, congratulations, Clarissa Shields, Savannah Marshall, for passing your test. VADA test, completing the test. Doesn't say, it's not going to tell you if you pass it. Completing the test. That's what it's going to tell you. Right? So I always have that. I also have Victor Conte. I have a lot of people and some boxers so I can get my information to know who's on VADA, who didn't get tested, and what I'm not hearing. Because remember, it's not what you hear, it's what you're not hearing. Yeah. So if I don't hear Margaret Goodman say, congratulations, Errol, Spence, and whoever he's fighting, then I know something's not quite right. Okay? Basically, this is a VADA situation now. We just had this problem with Conor Ben. This is a VADA situation now, so I'm going with that. But get off of this shit right now. We are talking about who is going to get paid under the allegedly. You know, that's all allegedly. You know how we do, right? But we should find out what's going to happen from the WBA, the IBF, and the WBC. And it sounds like Mark Suleiman, and it's so funny, Keith Thurman. Yo, back in the days, Keith Thurman, after Maurice Suleiman came to him, and all of a sudden, because I don't get it. It seems like everybody that loses is getting these high rankings and shit. Deontay Wilder, he lost. Who was the other dude that lost? And then Lomachenko, he lost. He's up. I'm just not getting it. But you know what? It's boxing, so I get it, right? Expect the unexpected with the bullshit. But this is a lesson that we're gonna learn right now, and we're gonna see who is more prioritized. Who's the one that's more of a mandatory of the sanction? Who's the head honcho of all the sanction bodies? Who comes first? Regardless if this man Spence having done his mandatory for 4 years with the IBF that's so strict. Let's see how they get unstricken, right? Let's see how they get unstricken. Then you got the WBA. Standonius got step-aside money. Are we going to see Al Haymon give him another step-aside money to step aside? Or is it the WBC that put Keith Thurman up there in the rankings to be the number one contender, right? So which one is it? I'm trying to figure this out. Terrence Crawford's fan. And let me get back to this thing about the excuse that the Terrence Crawford fans have and also the Errol sexual fans have. See if I can remember. So like I said, if I don't get this fight this year, I already not going to make a big deal out of it if the fight happens next year, because the Terrence Crawford fans going to say, well, y'all stalled it out. Y'all aged this athletic brother, Terrence Crawford. You aged him out. So that's an excuse. That's a big excuse. So now what was the other excuse? What was the other excuse? Hold on. Okay, I had to pause it, but I can't remember the excuse that we're going to have for the Errol Spence fans. But that's the excuse that the Crawford fans going to have, such as myself. If you age this man out and if fight happens next year, everybody's going to use that excuse that you aged him out. That's the Terrence Crawford fan. Now with Errol Spence, I don't know how you're going to find an excuse for somebody that doesn't want to fight Keith Thurman when he said he don't want to fight Keith Thurman, right? Because I already see, before Mendoza came out, y'all was trying to make a reasonable, for the WBA, something reasonable to overturn this IBF that's so strict, right? Y'all was coming up with all the excuses for the WBA and why they should be first, consolidating and the step aside money, and they put money into this already. And I'm like, wait a minute, was it some kind of contract? Is there some kind of contract? Premeditated contract? Is it? I don't know. I mean, y'all making it sound like this is more prioritized. You got to prioritize with this situation here more than the IBF, right? And then, I made some videos where I said Crawford should fight on a condition. Should fight Boots Ennis. And I'm pretty people, Terrence Crawford fans are scratching their head. But I got to repeat it. And I got to understand what I'm saying. There we go. If you're going to age this man out, to 36, right? And y'all trying to age him out. Well, in my mind, it's like, listen, man, if the IBF do what they're supposed to do, I would rather Errol Spence fight Boots. Now, if Boots wins and beats Errol Spence, well, I'd rather see Terrence Crawford win and lose to him than him fighting Errol Spence that's trying to age him out. And I'm going to explain why. Because at the end of the day, it's all about excuses that these fans have and we have. So if you win the Boots, oh man, you're still the man if you beat Boots. But if you lose, well, you lost to somebody that's 25, right? Wait. Now, if we're going to use the excuse, if we're going to use this excuse about age, 25 to 36, that's a better excuse for the Terrence Crawford fans. I'm just saying. That's a better excuse. And you got heart. You passed the torch, right? So let's just say Errol Spence loses to Boots Ennis, and he has the 3 belts. One, Boots is not with Showtime. He's not with PBC. He's with Showtime and Espinoza, and Espinoza got to make a return on his investment, and he has the network. It's not the network giving the PBC a budget, and we already see that Espinoza and Al Haim, they're going at it right now. They're going at it right now, man. So I won't be surprised if Boots gets the date that he wants to do what he got to do. I'm not sure. I'm not going to get into all that right now. In the comments, please. I'm not here to say I'm right, but if you're wrong about certain things about Espinoza and the PBC, fine. Because I know they're going out of business, this, that, Paramount, Showtime, the budget, this, that. Oh, PBC got all the boxes, but I know that Espinoza got 1 boxer. He got that boxer, and I'm not sure if he got Tank now. I'm not sure. So that's why I'm saying in some of my past videos, like, I'd rather lose to a Boots and win to a Boots than lose or win to this man, Errol Spence. It is what it is. The only reason why I want to see this fight is because all the saga and all the work that we put into for the last 5-6 years talking about the Errol Spence and Terrence Crawford fight. But if it comes down to the IBF wins this at this assembly or convention, and they win this petition, and they have a great argument, because I don't know who's the leader of the Justice League. I just don't know who the leader of the Justice League, I call it Justice League, but you know what I'm trying to say, right? So I don't know who's going to get what under the table, but we should find out. It's going to be a learning lesson, because I'm going to keep this in my log. I'm going to log it. Who won this? The WBA won this, the IBF won this, or is it the WBC that won this situation? Because Maurice Silverman is already sure of this. Like he's like, oh yeah, Keith Thurman, he's getting this fight. So you got the sanctioned body, you got the PBC, Al Haymon, that wants this fight. You got two organizations that wants this fight, and you got one boxer that don't want it. Let's see what happens. Oh, wait. Say that again? Bro, I said on the condition I would like to see Boots, if he's the IBF mandatory, to fight Errol Spence. And then he could fight Terrence Crawford. How you going to tell me in my ear that you want Terrence Crawford to fight Boots Ennis? Stop listening to this best fight the best and what you could have, should have, and would have done, okay? Understand this, aerosexuals, extraterrestrial aerosexuals, listen to me. Boots is a voluntary to Crawford. Crawford beat his mandatory Sean Porter. He doesn't have a mandatory until next year, May. Why? Because the WBO is, I think he's a super, well, I think now he's a global, where his mandatory is, I think, 16, 18 months, or whatever like that, right? So, from November to November, right? Like I say, I always say, Kell Brook to Sean Porter is a year. He did the do with both of them. Now, this year, from next year, and some months, whatever it is, he is not a mandatory for Boots Ennis. Can you aerosexuals shut the F up about, yeah, Crawford should just voluntarily fight Boots? Why? On the condition that I want? Yes. If Errol Spence decides to fight Boots, but you know what's going to happen? If the IBF win, you know what's going to happen? I don't think Errol Spence is built for that. I think he's just going to drop the belts and move up to 154. And I'm telling you right now, on the condition of these situations, I can see Errol Spence, if Stanley Donis is going to fight, I can see him sticking around at 147 division, right? If it's Keith, I'm not sure if he's going to stick around. All right, I don't know if he's going to give in to the PBC and the WBC, right? But if it's Boots, oh yeah, he moving up 154. Yeah, get that shit out of here. It's over, man. And there won't be no fight with Crawford in the future. It is what it is, because those belts are going to be dropped. And we're going to see other fights. And who's still going to have their belt? Crawford. Right? Jeez, these dudes with this fucking Crawford should just fight Boots. Give me a reason. He's a voluntary. He's not a mandatory. Stop listening to that boy, best fight the best. Stop listening. I am, on the other hand, I told you my condition. Why Boots should fight Crawford. Crawford should fight Boots. Enough is enough. I'm not here to change your mind. If you're aerosexual, I'm here to irritate your mind. I'm here for you to read between the lines. Sometimes it's the message before the money. In this video, I ain't getting no copyright strike. But I did drop some jewels for you to understand where I'm coming from and what I think about these sanctioned bodies and the promoters and what's going to happen under the table. Allegedly. Like, share, subscribe. I keep forgetting to say that, but if you want to, you could just follow. You don't have to press the sub button if you don't want to. It is what it is. I'm out.